Hi guys. So I'm going to continue with the story of Orphans of the Tide. We're actually quite far through now. We're about getting to halfway, page 113. Um, in the last chapter, obviously some strange things going on with with Seth and the sea. He seems to have some sort of mysterious link with the sea, where if he says it to do something, it kind of reacts to him. So there's something mysterious to do with Seth, and that's what we've uncovered in the last chapter. This chapter's called Experiments with Seawater. So I'm going to continue from there. Sign of the vessel, number 4, Ellie read aloud, holding the book in her hands. The vessel's skin is of a pale, sickly hue, unusually prone to scratches and bruising, and often damp to the touch. Do we really have to do this? Seth complained. He was standing on a stool in the middle of the workshop whilst Ellie inspected him. Ellie stood on a workbench nearby, both hands firmly gripping the harpoon gun, pointing it directly at Seth. It was the only way Ellie had been able to persuade Anna to let him bring him back at all. Yes, said Ellie, but not for much longer. Cassian should be here any minute with a special delivery. She turned back to Anna. As I was saying, he doesn't look sickly, and he's not damp at all, she added, putting her hand to Seth's forehead. Seth wrinkled his nose. What about those blue marks around on his skin? Those weren't sickly, though. They were just weird. Now let's keep going. Sign of the vessel, number 5. The vessel will often seem distracted by a voice in his head. This is in the truth the voice of the enemy. But he does hear voices, said Anna. Yes, but we already know that's the sea he's hearing, not the enemy, said Ellie. Seth stifled another yawn and got down from his stool. He picked up a loaf of bread and began tearing huge chunks out with his teeth. Ugh, she's so disgusting, said Anna, and not in a good way. Ellie scanned down the page. Sign of the vessel, number 11, she read, feeling pleased with herself. The vessel will have a severely reduced appetite. Anna glowered at her. Sign of the vessel, number 12, Ellie continued. His hair falls out easily. Hey, Seth complained, as Eddie tried unsuccessfully to pull out some of his thick black hair. You've proved your point, he said, shoving her away. Anna motioned for Ellie to come closer, keeping the harpoon gun trained on Seth. Let me see that. Ellie reluctantly handed her the book. Anna barely glanced at the page. The vessel likes to eat a lot of bread, she said. Anna, you've got the book upside down, said Ellie. Anna thrust it back into Ellie's hands. I don't care what some stupid book says. He's the vessel and he can't stay here. Not with the Orphans across the street. There was a knock at the workshop door. They all tensed. Anna stabbed her finger at the basement door. I'm going, Seth grumbled, batting the harpoon gun aside on the way past. Ellie, came Castian's voice. It's me. Are you in? There was a moment's pause. That spider hasn't escaped its cage again, has it? Ellie hurried to the door and flung open the bolts. Standing in the street behind Castian were 4 of his sailors, their foreheads slick with sweat. Between them was a large iron trunk, like a massive bathtub, with a lid on top. Your delivery, as requested, said Castian, with an ironic smile. After so many years of being called to the workshop with requests for odd materials at even odd hours, he had long since stopped asking questions. Oh, thank you, said Ellie, eyeing the tub excitedly. Thought though you didn't need to come yourself, sir. No, but I wanted to check you were okay. After all that business with the vessel. Yeah, that's really nice of you, Ellie said. I'm fine, thanks. I hope you've been staying indoors. There's a 9 o'clock curfew in place now, so don't go out, looking for him. Ellie felt her face go red, feeling suddenly trapped. She had no choice but to lie, even though Anna would see her lie. She could feel her glaring at her already. Ellie waved her hand, trying to seem casual. No, I'd never do that, sir. I'm not stupid. I've been here the whole time, working away. I've got a lot of, inventor stuff to do. Good, said Castian. I'm glad you're not putting yourself or anyone else in danger. I'm going, Anna announced suddenly, glowering at Ellie. Really, Anna? Said Castian. I've just got my hands on an antique throwing dagger. I thought you'd love to see it. Anna gnawed her lip. Sorry, sir. The younger orphans have a painting competition. They want me to judge it. What? Said Ellie. I thought that wasn't until next week. On her way past, Anna picked up a spare harpoon and placed it in Ellie's hands. You should probably keep hold of this, she muttered, her eyes flicking meaningfully at the basement door. In case that big, ugly spider does come back. Better to just get rid of it before someone gets hurt. Castian swallowed. But I thought you caught the spider. You've not been feeding it, have you? Anna stormed from the workshop, and Ellie hurried after her. Anna, she called. Anna turned, looking at her hopefully. Ellie opened her mouth, then glanced back at Castian. She felt her throat constrict. I'll see you later, she said feebly to Anna. Anna's hopeful look vanished, replaced by an expression of exhaustion and complete disappointment. She rushed across the street towards the orphanage and slammed the door behind her. The orphans must be scared, said Castian, after last night. Ellie rubbed at a pain in her chest. Has there been any news, sir? Well, there was a fire out by the Revival waterfront last night. A woman thought the vessel was in her attic and started a fire to try and trap it. And someone in the Anchor Tavern accused another man's son of looking just like the vessel, which started a pub brawl, which turned ugly, which alerted the Inquisition, who put a stop to it. Castian rubbed his eye. The longer the vessel remains uncaught, the more these sort of things will happen. So just be careful. Now, all rested, gentlemen? The four sailors groaned, then hauled the metal container inside the workshop. Ellie hurried to clear a space. What's it for, then? Said Castian. Just an experiment, Ellie replied, kicking aside some books. And what sort of experiment calls for 20 gallons of seawater? Ellie shrugged awkwardly. A very important one. Okay, well, let's leave the genius to her very important work, smiled Castian. He bowed deeply, then strode from the workshop, the four sailors hurrying after him. Ellie rushed excitedly to the basement door, knocking 3 times quickly, then 3 times slowly. Seth slunk out, eyeing the tub suspiciously. What have you brought that here for? He said, his lip curling. He put a hand to his head. Take it away. Ellie beamed. So you can hear it, she said, bouncing on the balls of her feet. Even seawater that's been taken out of the sea. That's excellent. Seth gave her a dead-eye stare. Why? Because you can use it to practice, she said, flipping open the lid. Practice, he said. Yes, to figure out what this connection is between you and the sea. If we can learn more about that, then maybe we can figure out who you are. Seth looked back at the tub and the still seawater inside. What happens if you put your hand in it? Ellie said eagerly. Seth's black eyebrows angled sharply. I'm not doing that. Why not? She said. Because I almost drowned before. Yeah, but there's not enough water here to drown you. Probably. I said no, Seth said firmly, and the water in the tub bubbled slightly. Ellie clapped with glee. See? That was you. That's incredible. Okay, now please, will you touch it? Seth scowled. All right. If it will shut you up. He stormed over to the tub, which was still bubbling, and thrust his hand into it. The water splashed and rumbled immediately, and Seth cried out in shock as it flowed up his arm, engulfing it like a sleeve. Let go of me, he snarled, only this time to make the sea hold on tighter. It was pulling him in now, dragging him almost to his shoulder, his free arm straining against the tub to keep him upright. Ellie rushed forward, wrapping her arms around his waist, trying to pull him away. But his arm might as well have been stuck in stone. Sweat rolled down his neck. Ellie's mind raced. She hurried towards the shelves of chemicals, grabbed 2 bottles of colourless liquid, then rushed back to Seth, unstopping one bottle and shoving it under his nose. Quick, breathe in, she cried. What is it? Just breathe in. Seth inhaled sharply and his eyes glazed over. His arms and shoulders relaxed and the water seemed to let go of him. Ellie had to help him into a chair. What is that? He said dopily. Ether, said Ellie, restopping the bottle. It's a sedative. Look, this calms you right down. But he'd gone cross-eyed. Why did the water let me go? I think because it calmed down too. It seems to respond to your emotions. Here. She pulled the other bottle from her pocket. Smell this now. Seth inhaled and leapt up, his eyes wide. He began to cough. The water in the tub bubbled. That's spirit of ammonia, Ellie said proudly. It smells terrible, doesn't it? Now listen. Back in the cathedral, you were able to control the water. Do you remember? Before it attacked you. How did you do that? I don't know. Just felt right. Ellie nodded. But then you got too angry, and so the water got angrier and it attacked you. But maybe if you can control your emotions, then you can control the sea too. Seth gave her a look that still had far too much emotion in it, and Ellie held out the ammonia bottle in threat. Why don't you keep trying? So he tried again, holding his hand out above the water each time, and whenever he got too frustrated, he would stand back and take several deep breaths until the water calmed down again. Very soon the floorboards were drenched. I can still hear it, said Seth, lying spread out on the floor, chest heaving in exhaustion. The same blue mist-like splotches had appeared on his skin. What are those? Ellie asked, kneeling down to inspect them under a magnifying glass. They swirled and shifted like skittish fish. Why can I hear the sea in my head? Said Seth. It's so angry. Or is that my anger? Ellie tucked her knees under her chin, watching him thoughtfully. Maybe you need to inhale some ether and then try to control the water, she said. Ellie, you're not listening, said Seth. I am, she protested. Only you're getting all emotional and it's not helping. You need to control your emotions. That's what I'm trying to do, Seth cried, and the seawater sloshed angrily over the edge of the tub. Well, try harder, said Ellie. Maybe you need a way to focus. Sometimes when I'm angry, I paint a picture. It's usually a very angry picture, but by the time I'm done, I don't feel so angry anymore. You just don't get it, said Seth, standing up and running his hands through his hair. I keep thinking about all those people in the square that night and how they want me dead. And I think about how I don't know anyone and I feel so lonely, and that makes me feel angry too. He turned sharply and the water in the tub spluttered. And then I think about how I did have someone once. Lots of someones, brothers, sisters. Only I can't remember who they are. And that makes me... He screwed up his face, his hands clenching into fists. Water boiled up and splashed over the sides of the tub. Maybe we should just take a break, said Ellie nervously. Here, you should eat something. She grabbed an apple from a workbench and tossed it to him. Ellie got the feeling he wanted to be alone and wandered over to the far side of the workshop. Here, thousands of pieces of paper had been stuck, one on top of the other, until nothing of the wall underneath was visible. She stared at a drawing she'd sketched the day before, a diagram of a humpback whale, with a boy inside. Seth finished his apple and came to join her. He seemed calmer now. The water in the tub was silent. He leaned over to inspect the drawing. Is that supposed to be me? Yes, said Ellie. He frowned. Why is my head so big? Ellie huffed. It's a study of a whale's digestive system. I'm trying to figure out how I survived inside a whale, Seth finished, his eyes scanning the drawing. Why? What do you mean, why? She said. Because it's a mystery. It seems impossible, but you managed it, so it must be possible. But that doesn't help us catch the vessel or figure out who I am. Maybe not, but it's still interesting, and I'm an inventor, you know. I thought you just fixed your mum's broken stuff. Ellie bristled. Fixing things is hard, and I do make new things, like the net cannon or that cherry picker over there. It gets cherries down from high up branches, she said, puffing out her chest. But I haven't seen any trees on this island. And we need to figure out who you are, said Ellie, cutting him off. If we know how you survived, we might be able to work out how you got into that whale in the first place. She pulled the drawing from the wall to show him more closely. I'm fairly sure I dragged you out of the whale's stomach. Now, human stomachs are full of acid, and you certainly wouldn't want to live in one of them. But I think a whale's stomach is more like a cow's... Seth was staring quizzically at a yellow piece of paper that had hidden beneath the drawing of the whale. Ellie felt an icy stab in her chest. Seth, she repeated, but he kept staring. It was a drawing of a girl and a boy in a rowboat out at sea, though it was easy to tell that the girl was Ellie, with her long messy hair and a nose that was curved a little to one side. It was hard to say who the boy was. "Who's that?" said Seth, pointing at the boy. Oh, Ellie's mouth was suddenly dry. "That's my brother." "But why doesn't he have a face?" said Seth. "Why is it left blank?" Ellie felt a chill run up her spine. Because I can't remember it," she said. "It was only partly a lie." "I didn't know you had a brother," said Seth. Ellie let out a deep breath. "Had," she said, in a small voice. "I'm sorry," said Seth. He stared at his fate for a long while. "I wish I could remember my brothers and sisters too." "I know," said Ellie. Seth closed his eyes. "I feel like if I could remember them, I'd feel warm again, like nothing could hurt me, because they wouldn't let it." He trailed off, then shrugged. "Do you feel that when you think of your brother?" Ellie realised there was a tear on her cheek and angrily wiped it away. She tried to visualise that day in the boat when they'd gone out fishing together, but immediately a terrible, painful cold filled her body. "No," she said. "I don't feel warm. I don't feel that at all." "Did you not get on?" "Of course we got on," said Ellie, feeling her temper flare. He was my little brother. Only." She stared at the drawing of the blank-faced boy with the fishing rod. "I was supposed to keep him safe, and I didn't." Oh, I was quite sad at the end there. So there's obviously some sort of mystery to do with Ellie's brother, and obviously she couldn't save him or look after him. And we're still not quite sure what is it with Seth and the water. There's definitely some link there, isn't there, between Seth and the water. Right, there's one final bit to this chapter, and it's again from the diary of Claude Hestermeyer. So let's see what this reveals. From the diary of Claude Hestermeyer. "I've begun locking my office door at all times, terrified that someone might come in and find this journal, or some piece of evidence I've overlooked. My door closes on its own, thanks to one of those clever door closers of Hannah Lancaster's inventions, and locks by itself too. Once, when my life was less fraught with peril, my door was always propped open, so my students felt free to speak to me whenever they wished. Now, I hide myself away and ignore anyone who comes knocking. Not that many do. I'm much more irritable these days, and ever since I asked the enemy to get that money, I've been tired and withdrawn. Even holding a conversation is difficult, so my office has become like a sanctuary to me, or a prison. On Tuesday I returned after lunch and saw that my door was ajar. I looked down and saw something unusual propping it open. A dried up grey starfish. I frowned. What in the world might this mean? Then I jerked upright as the door opened fully. It was one of the servants, a freckle-faced young man named Thomas. He must have seen that my door was open and assumed that meant I wanted the room cleaned. He bowed slightly, then walked past me, striding briskly along the corridor. I watched him go, then shot into my office, locking the door behind me. "You're not going to like this," said the enemy, who was draped in his usual armchair. I followed his gaze. Icy water trickled down my chest. There, sitting on my desk in full view, was a large pile of gold coins. Very mysterious. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Start making some predictions in your head about what you think is going to come up next. I'm trying to figure out in my head what is it about Seth and the water. We've obviously got some sort of mystery about Ellie's brother, and obviously there's lots of little clues to do with the enemy from the diary of Claude Hestermeyer, and in the end there, all of the gold coins appearing. All right, guys, all very intriguing. I hope you're enjoying it. I think it's a brilliant story, and we'll continue with chapter 10 tomorrow. See you later. Bye.